What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a minute. Got some things to talk about here about Guilty Gear Strive Season 2 and its potential changes. You know, I took a little while to get to this point and have things to say. Let me just cut straight to it and let's kind of get at this, right? ArcSys did their little stream or whatever to kind of talk about Season 2, and I didn't wake up to watch it. I decided to stay in my bed because sleep felt a lot better, but I woke up to my timeline on all social media platforms and a lot of people were pretty upset. So I obviously, decided to investigate and take a look and see exactly what was going on. And basically it was like 2 hours worth of like fodder. There wasn't really a lot of anything there, apparently. Seeing what they did was very upsetting. At the end of it all, I think the summary was, there's like three major things to really look at, right? Which was they're adding an FD macro button, they're fixing dash blocking, and they have the crossplay beta that's coming in summer with no actual date. I can understand why a lot of people were upset, because 2 hours worth of your time to kind of show off a lot of memorabilia, talk about characters who won the polls and stuff like that. It's kind of like that could have been a Twitter post, that could have been a video, that could have been like anything else except for that whole 2 hour spiel, right? What it was, or these are the three most important things. I'll tackle them one by one. And I'll start with the last one, which is the crossplay beta in the summer. I think that's great. I mean, we all knew crossplay was coming. It's not like this is like a new thing or anything like that they've talked about. It's good to see that it's coming. It would have been nice to actually have like a tentative date, but as of recently, it kind of just shows that they just don't really, to keep it blunt, they just don't have their stuff together at all. It's good that we have crossplay at the very least on the way, right? Let's talk about the FD macro button. This, I won't lie to you, the FD macro button is something that's been in every version of Guilty Gear up until Strive, which makes absolutely zero sense to me because there's a dash button. So the fact that there's a dash button, and I get it, there's dash blocking, but not having an FD is kind of annoying, especially when the priority system in terms of the button inputs are not up to par as the last games, right? So I think that's really bad, and that should have been a quality of life change throughout any patch that they've put out since this game's been out, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me, right? And I think that's the same for dash blocking too, right? And how they're fixing it. These are things that should have been fixed, since Happy Chaos's release, or even post Happy Chaos release, because Happy Chaos in particular is the one character you have to use dash blocking. And guess what? FD breaking, run FD to stop so you can actually dash and block without having to dash and block. It's more of a command block, if you will. It just doesn't make any sense to me that these two things are quality of life changes that ArcSys could have done in any patch up until now. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm being very critical on them strictly because, while this is their biggest release for Guilty Gear. And I think that their priority should be on making good quality of life changes, not just to the characters, but to the system as well. So seeing that this is now a Season 2 feature is kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty off-putting. But at the very least, there are things coming in June 10th. That does make me feel a little bit better, because I won't lie to you guys, I do feel like this current season has been pretty ho-hum. I do think that the competitive integrity of this current season is not very good. I've said this for quite some time on my streams, said it countless times. I just don't think that the current build of the game is very competitive personally. I know there are already tournaments for it. Those things are always going to happen regardless. It's always going to be like that. There's always going to be tournaments for a game. It doesn't matter if it's like good competitive or bad competitive. Like, people just want to play in tournaments, so it's just going to happen, right? So with that, this leads me into what I'm hoping for Season 2. Now, I didn't follow the trend and make a Season 2 wishlist video, so here's kind of what I'm going to do now with that, right? Since they talked about it, I'm going to tell you what I think needs to be in this game. Now, with that being said, I'm going to tell you with a straight face right now. Some of you guys will be like, you're an old head. Of course, you want old Guilty Gear things. And my answer to you is, obviously, yes, I do. What I'm hoping for system-wise is already, they're talking about fixing dash blocking, so that's huge. That's great. I would love it if they would actually fix the, you know, landing recovery on double jumps and air dashes and stuff like that. I think it does suck that you're calling out things and looking out and baiting your opponent and they're still being able to punish you. I don't really like that. I haven't liked that at all. Even if you can't, you know, you can't even flawless defense cancel to land, you know, safely, to kill that landing recovery. Like, it doesn't matter, like, you're still gonna get hit. So while I know it's a 3-frame window, I still think that window is still not cool. Just remove it. If you press a button, then you deserve to get punished. If you press no button, then you don't deserve to get punished, right? So there's that. I would love it if aerial momentum on jumps would still be retained a little bit further. I think that they should allow for better air movement for every character in the game, because movement still to me feels kind of static, and that comes from someone who plays Chip. You know, I also play Jacko, been playing a lot of Happy Chaos. There's a lot of things in the game in terms of aerial movement that I just don't think are very good, and it's mostly because of air momentum being like shifted. Like, it's not as strong as it used to be in the older games. So I'd like for them to actually just consider adding a bit more, so that when you run and jump over your opponent, you're not put back into just normal jump state when you cross over them. I think it really sucks to have that, because you can't create as good or potential dynamic situations when you cross over your opponent. And this is more of a higher level thing, so some of you guys might not be as high level as what I'm thinking with this, but trust me when I say it makes for different angles of approach when you cross over your opponent, as opposed to it kind of like you losing a lot of that momentum. Granted, you can use the air dash and the flawless defense cancel to kind of create a different scenario with that, but I think that that's cool. But I think it's good to have even more options and have that much more flexibility. Now, this is another thing I did hear about what they said in their little presentation, is that they want to add more freedom. Honestly, I think it's about time that they've decided to do that. I do think that the game is very restrictive. I think they've done enough in this past season to kind of like restrict the game. And without the lack of freedom of movement, you're going to have characters like Happy Chaos just having a ball because he doesn't have to adhere to anything at all. So adding more freedom, by that I hope that they mean adding more jump cancels. I hope that that means adding more gatlings, going from far slash to crouching slash, or what have you, or P to K gatlings and stuff like that. They need to add things like that, because the game at the moment is very restrictive. You kind of already know what the block streams are going to come. Some things are just very predictable in the game, right? So I think adding that much more will make it better. I do hope that they adjust air dashes, specifically going backwards, because I think air dash back is just, it just feels too claustrophobic, you know? Like, that's a big problem to me with the game. A lot of things feel very claustrophobic. And then adding, like, you know, in the previous season, in the previous patches, right, they added like burst ranges, like the burst radius is a lot larger, so you can, so baiting it is a lot harder with any kind of movement. You still have to, you know, RC to kind of get away from it. Like, adding jump cancels and allowing the air dash to clear the burst would actually allow for some more unique punishment in the game. It will allow you to actually use, you know, the thing that Guilty Gear is known for, which is movement, to allow you to play the game that much more and not have to just be restricted to just spending meter to make the burst, you know, to punish a burst. Because at this point, the burst at this point, in my opinion, is on the same wavelength of like an NRS game, you know, where a breaker's potentially guaranteed. Obviously, there's more ways to bait it. Obviously, I'm not saying that there aren't. Of course, you can just spend your meter. I get it, dude. You just spend your bar. Yeah, but in a lot of cases, you know, this game is already, you know, still pretty meter extensive, especially with positive bonus. And some characters don't get the luxury. I'm looking at you, Milia, for example, who don't really do good meter build and things like that. Don't do good risk build and things like that. To make it, it's so much harder for her to bait burst and bait certain things in the game because the jump cancels are very limited. So my hope is that in that freedom that they up that, and the movement as well, right? I do think more characters need more dash cancels. I think adding them to just Soul and May and like Giovanna, I think like those three characters are cool, but at the same time you have a mechanic that is hardly even used with either the character. I'm not saying people don't use it, I'm just saying it's something that's rarely used. So give it to characters who would actually take advantage of it. Looking at the speedsters, you can still mash them out, but at the very least they have another way to do something, right? Opening up the freedom. I also think they need to stop being very picky about plus frames, because you got so many characters who do have plus frames and other characters who don't. It feels like there's like a divide in like the development team in terms of what they want for the game and what they want for the characters. To me, it just doesn't make sense that some have plus frames, some don't. And it's like, well, this character gets to do this to you, and it's like, well, this kind of sucks. You you know. So it'd be nice to add some kind of universal plus frames to some characters instead of it being all negative frames. And you know, I don't know, it just makes for a bad time in my honest opinion. I think that there's too many points of Guilty Gear Strive where people want to challenge just because it's negative, and I think that's kind of a bad thing that the game is designed and predicated on that, in my honest opinion. You may feel differently, but that's how I feel personally, right? I'm not expecting more special moves, but obviously it'd be great to get more special moves. If not more special moves, adjust some move properties, make certain moves faster. Chip, jump, dust, please make it 8 frames again. Maybe change some hurt box to hitbox ratio so that characters just don't get punished so easily for certain things, or have such a wide hitbox for whatever reason. Okay, and on top of that, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room: damage. I think it is about time that they lower the damage in this game. I think it was cool maybe in the beginning to make the game very punishing, but I think at this point in time it is more important to actually reduce the damage and let players actually play the game a little bit longer than a 2-touch, 3-touch game. It in a lot of ways makes it so that outplaying your opponent doesn't always feel like a thing. It feels like you just have to out damage them as opposed to outplay them. It doesn't mean that there haven't been outplays and things like that in tournaments, stuff like that, where I've done it myself. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. I'm just saying I feel like out damaging tends to happen more often than not. Call it a spade, right? I think damage definitely needs to be reduced. They need to reduce that. You know, instant blocking, obviously, I'm just tell you with a straight face. 2-frame window, I'm sorry, ArcSys, I think that's just atrocious. I think that I know FDing is easy, and I know that pushing people out with strings is like easier with FD, but I think opening up that window still from 2 frames to maybe 3 or 4 frames would be like just right. You know, it's not as punishing. I don't think it needs to be anything more than 4 frames, give or take. It's still difficult at 4 frames. People are still having a hard time at 7 and 8 frames in Xrd and even Blaze Blue. So I definitely don't see a reason to keep this as hard as it is. It would help a lot for defense, and it would encourage players to actually use their defensive options a little bit more, you know, as opposed to just, well, I tried it and I got smacked up for it, or I just missed it. I mean, you still get to block, right? But I still think it would be great to have a little bit larger of a window, just double it at the most. Anything more than 4, you can go 5 if you want, and to me that's still pushing it, but I think a 4-frame window is just enough to get people to practice defense and stop having characters like Nagoriyuki being in your face, or Giovanna being in your face, even Chip for what it is to being in your face, like, so I won't say easily, but like if they're stringing you, it'd be nice to be able to get some breathing room to play neutral again, right? I get maybe to some extent it may seem like it'll just be a push block fest, but I think it would make for a little bit of a better game on defense so that you won't feel so claustrophobic. Because again, I still feel like a big problem with Guilty Gear Strive is the game just feels like it's so claustrophobic. Stages already feel small. Like it's easy to go coast to coast for a lot of characters. Yeah, whatever, right? Also, something that needed to be in the game since day one, which is a wall break indicator, so you can know how much you've done to the wall in terms of wall damage. It's just really annoying to go for an RC and then do a combo just for like the wall to just, you know, it cracks on you. You know, you don't really have an option. Like, it'd be nice if maybe there are moves that force wall break or something of that stature. You know, it could be like, I don't know, KOF 15 where they have Shadow Strike, right? Where every character has a unique animation that breaks the wall. Maybe that could be interesting. That could do something. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. I'm not sure how well that play out in terms of balance, but it'd be nice to have some kind of option or some way to know whether or not you're going to break the wall. It's really annoying. It's really frustrating. Yeah, fix it, right? Let us know when we're going to break the wall. Make the wall flash red or something. Give me a visual indicator. I think that's mostly it. You know, like when I think of things that's wrong with the game, I think it's mostly that. You know, obviously I don't want to get into each character and say what they should do. I don't even like to save a separate video for Chip and what I think he needs, but I think those are just some general things that would just make the game that much better for a lot of people to play and like actually enjoy themselves a lot more. Make the game that much more, you know, competitive. It'll make the game feel that much more of an actual Guilty Gear game. I'm fine that it's its own thing, but I think it's about time for season 2. And I mean, for what it's worth, we've been playing this game since like what, 3 or so betas, full release now. We're kind of going on, technically speaking, 2-ish years of playing this game on and off, you know, up until full release now. And it's like we kind of need more. I think it's about time to put the Guilty Gear back into freaking Guilty Gear and stop being so conservative about like how you want this game to play, because there's too many conflict of interest characters, there's too many conflict of interest, a lot of things in the game. It would be better if they had more of a clearer direction for this game moving forward with season 2. I do hope that moving forward after was June 10th for this new patch, I do hope that they keep updating the game, keep letting people know things, be more transparent about what's going on with the game, because I do feel like one of the biggest problems I've been having with Strive and why I've taken a back seat is because ArcSys hasn't been as transparent about things as I would like them to. It's very infuriating to know that we have such a good game on our hands for the most part, and they're just being so hush hush and quiet about things. Sure, I get it, they say things in their developer backyard. Sure, I get it, they say these things in their little presentations, but I think the problem with it is I think it's too few in between, and it will be good to know what exactly is happening with the game. I don't need to know what the characters that are coming, but just let us know that we have things on the way, we have things in the pipeline. Don't just give us an announcement of an announcement to make us wake up early for whatever reason, for us in different regions, right? Like, give us more, like open up, let us know. If Riot can do it and all these other developers who make other games can do it, I can't see why these guys can't. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, we're your audience, you know, ArcSys. Let us know what the hell's going on. Stop hiding stuff, you know, it's not that hard. But let me not get any further with this. I knocked out 2 videos in one here. It's kind of long. If you stuck with me all the way through, thank you, I appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, stay up to date, you know what it is. Anyhow, let me get up out of here and not take up too much more of you guys' time. Take care, stay safe in these COVID streets. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.